And can you unmute at the desk? Okay, great. Okay. Well, everyone, thank you again, and welcome back to Concordia University's ForSpace. Thank you for joining us for the last episode, I suppose, in this series of events under the title of Concordia Global Learning Day, which is a closer look at the international learning opportunities that are happening here at Concordia. And to help situate you, we are streaming to YouTube live from ForSpace, and we're located here on unceded Indigenous lands in Tiohtià:ke, Montreal. And at ForSpace, we work with our university community, mobilize knowledge by co-creating daily activities that examine research questions, looking closely at projects in development here at the university, like this one. We're running this event again as a live streamed Zoom meeting. We welcome your comments or questions. With a raised hand, we'll get a microphone to you, or if you're online, through the chat. But for today's faculty panel on research collaboration, titled Standing Out and Stepping Up, the panel will discuss international research collaboration and examining how students can benefit from that. And to help us do that today, we are very lucky to have Monica Mulrennan, the Associate Vice President of Research, Development, and Outreach here at Concordia, along with Tristan Glatard, co-director of the Applied AI Institute, as well as Associate Professor of Computer Science and Software Engineering. We also have Cédric Lesage, Associate Dean, Research and Impact, Professor of Accountancy at John Molson School of Business. And finally, of course, and wonderful to have back, Sarah Turner, Associate Professor of Geography, Planning, and Environment. And with that, I will pass it over to Monica to begin. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Douglas. Welcome, everyone. I'm delighted to have been invited to moderate this panel on international research collaboration. In a world interconnected by technology and ideas, the frontiers of knowledge obviously knows no borders. Fostering international collaboration can allow us to transcend, oh, there we go. Fostering international collaborations allow us to transcend geographic constraints and tap into the perspectives, the methodologies, the expertise that's needed to tackle global challenges. So without further ado, I'm going to turn over to the three panelists we have today, each of whom is actively engaged in international research and brings a wealth of experience that they'll share with us today. So let's begin by going around the table, having each of you share your experience in international research collaboration. Sarah, we'll start with you.
Thanks, Monica. I'm Sarah Turner, and in the Department of Geography, Planning, and Environment, and I'm a primate behavioral ecologist by research field. And because I study non-human primates and environmental science, I almost by necessity really need to be working internationally if I want to watch primates in the field, and my students need opportunities to do field research with primates. So I have two main projects going on. I work in Japan at the Awajishima Monkey Center with collaborators at Osaka University and Kyoto University. This is a free-ranging group of monkeys, and I've had students on Global Link come to Japan with me to do their projects there. And I'm also working in Brazil on two capuchin monkey species, and have had a number of students now involved in my Tax Global Link as well, working in Brazil on reintroduction and release of capuchin monkeys, and also on a wild population of endangered blonde capuchins in a forest fragment.
Thank you. So I'm Cédric, and I'm working in accounting. So you may not necessarily see the link between accounting and international research, but I will give you just one example. Some years ago, I was involved in a pan-European project involving 10 business schools and universities across Europe, Western and Eastern. And I think there were a total of 40 people involved, so faculty members and PhD students. And it was a multi-million euros grant granted by the European Commission. Accounting is about the language that the companies will have to speak when they want to report about their performance. So if each country has their own language, then nobody understands anything, because obviously if you are an international investor, you will not be able to invest into a company that you don't understand the financial statements of. So the idea of this multinational team was to help building an international, a set of international accounting standards, and to test them across all our countries. And the output of this project was some white reports that afterwards were used by the European Commission and other regulators to participate to creating these international standards. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. So my research is in neuroinformatics, so that combines pretty much neuroscience data with high-performance computing and data analytics. While thinking about this panel, I was actually wondering which of my research project is not international. So I guess, I mean, I do participate in projects like MyTax GRAs. I've been involved in NIH grants, other international European projects. But for me, the most important thing is the international network. So researchers I've met at conferences, I've met through other people, former students who have met people who, and to me, really, Monica was saying that knowledge knows no border. That's really my reality, confronting ideas with, you know, other people. What do you think of this? What do you think of that? We found this in this experiment. And so it's more like all this informal networking that of course involves students, which really brings a lot to my own research and development. And so even through literature, obviously, I don't know any paper that doesn't cite a paper, you know, that was published outside of Canada or written by, you know, authors not based in Canada. So yes, this organic network of ideas, collaborators is really at the core of my research practice.
Thanks, Tristan. So clearly very different experience represented in the panel. So as I mentioned in my opening, I mean, many of the most pressing challenges we face are international. Many of the most pressing challenges we face have a global impact. So can you speak to how you see the importance of international research collaboration in tackling these global challenges? We'll keep the same order. So Sarah, over to you again.
Yeah, I think that's one of the really amazing things about doing international research collaboration, and especially for students to gain experience internationally, is looking at the global challenges we face, like biodiversity loss, like climate change, like you know, the loss of species, and being able to find one small part of learning about and working towards solving those problems. So in the projects I work on in Brazil, I work really closely with Dr. Renata Ferreira, who is at the Federal University do Norte in Rio Grande do Norte in Natal. And she has been working for many years on this forest fragment. She habituated a group of capuchin monkeys that are an endangered species. I mean, if you've never habituated a group of monkeys, this is, you know, many years of work going into that forest and spending time. And because she's done that work and she was looking for international collaboration, and we started to form a relationship and discuss ideas and talk about these things, now we have this amazing place that students from Concordia can go to learn about conservation, to learn about you know, ways that on the ground we can work with local communities to mitigate biodiversity loss. So it's kind of taking those personal relationships, because that was, based on her reaching out when she was here on sabbatical and us starting to talk and develop a relationship and talk about how we might work to help each other's students and provide kind of what we might publish together, what we might do together as researchers, and that relationship and those like specific places then kind of scales up, I think, to those global issues for students and their experience.
Lovely example. Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you.
Cédric.
It's quite obvious that all those challenges are international challenges. So our responses should be also at the international level. For instance, in my field, so I said accounting is about setting some rules, and the international language, the body that creates the international language is located in London. And for sustainability issues, they have just developed an office in Germany. And that office in Germany is now responsible for coordinating all worldwide efforts to publish norms about sustainability reporting. And they have various offices, and one of them is here in Montreal. And its role is to create this language that will help the companies to report on their carbon emissions and on all actions that they are taking to decrease these carbon emissions, decrease their environmental footprint, etc., etc. And it will go through some accounting language at one point. Yeah. And obviously, I mean, very different countries are facing very different issues regarding carbon emissions. And the companies will have also to address those issues. And we are currently creating a team of international researchers to be able to speak to that office that is located maybe 2 kilometers far from here. And we will take the opportunity of having the Canadian researcher about sustainability reporting to create these synergies. And obviously, we will invite international professors, international students to be part of that team. Excellent. So this is the kind of global challenges that we are facing and the way we are addressing it. Yeah.
And Montreal is obviously a very good city for this type of work. Tristan.
Yeah, so when I think of global impact, I'm also thinking of diversity of approaches. Yes, we can think of global problems if you think in both in computing, AI, neuroscience, like these. There are global issues that one may think, everyone could be interested in. But under this common umbrella, I do think that there are different ways to look at problems, which are due to different cultures, different academic traditions, research traditions. And so to me, in order to increase the global impact of a project, it is important to confront ideas to these different approaches. Some people may have, for instance, a more mathematical approach. Some people may be more engineering. In some countries, as in Canada, for instance, research is very much, done by students, and so the role of graduate students is very important. In other countries, maybe students are still around, but their role is a bit less prominent. Even in the definition of problems, some people would focus on optimizing the performance of a system from, a systemic, computational point of view, and other people may, other tradition may focus on different aspects of optimization. So I think it is important to consider this diversity, both of problem definition, of approaches, to have, a problem that goes a bit beyond like what we are, our niche or on maybe sometimes narrow focus.
So diversity, so not just interdisciplinary, but I guess international allows you to tap into that wider diversity. So all of you are clearly working with colleagues, but you've also availed of opportunities to engage students in your work. So if you could speak to how you feel the students have benefited from the experience of doing doing this type of work abroad.
I think it's invaluable, really. Just, being able to go somewhere else outside of your zone of experience and knowledge and seeing how research works in a different part of the world, diversity of perspectives, diversity of questions, but even just the day-to-day, encountering a different ecosystem, if you're a biology-oriented student, but also encountering just the different ways that people live and different socioeconomic conditions and languages. I mean, I always encourage my students to do their best to study the language a little bit before going, because of course it helps, but you also benefit from being in a different language environment completely from what you're used to and starting to, see the world from different perspectives. And yeah, I think that experience also of learning how research is done, differently in universities in Japan or Brazil, because there's different traditions, there's different ideas, there's different focus on what's important. And that can be, so beneficial to actually experience really what that looks like, even the chaotic parts of it, even the parts that don't always work as well. It's still, I think, a really valuable to experience that as a student and to kind of bring that into your lexicon of understanding as you progress in your career. So.
Thank you. Yes, I fully agree with this idea of benefiting from the diversity. And I have one example in mind. It deals with ethical issues. The way people behave is different across the world. And because of that, what could be regarded as an ethical behavior somewhere may be regarded as a bit less ethical somewhere else. But there are very good reasons for why people are behaving that way. So coming from here with our own lenses and applying them without paying attention to the context may miss the point when you are analyzing the data, when you are observing some people. I'm currently working on an international project with Tunisia, France, and Canada. And we are observing some managers in a professional environment. And some of them are taking actions that are even regarded as almost illegal here. But when you ask them, when you really try to understand what they are doing and why, you understand that this is for the common good, in fact. So the horizon is different, but they consider the society as a whole, the group as a whole, and not necessarily the individual only, and that makes sense. So as I said several times already, we are here to develop regulations, but the way they are enforced, the way they are applied is totally different across the world. And that plays a role in people's behavior, which is what we are studying basically. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so maybe to bring it to a low level, I think the network indeed that students develop is invaluable. It brings jobs very concretely. I mean, many graduate students or some would look for postdocs after their PhD, for instance, or for PhD opportunities. When you've done even, a quick encounter at a conference, you've talked to someone, it increases the chances, I think, by really a lot, not even to mention a full internship. But I mean, when students start developing a network, I think that's absolutely key to landing good and interesting jobs. But also at different levels, co-authorships in papers, just helping a bit, exchanging, doing a little analysis that almost came randomly because we bumped on someone at a conference and started discussing something. A student gets co-author on a paper. I think that adds a lot to their profile. In terms of CV, both academic or industrial CV, having an experience in a different country, I think really stands out. I mean, not everyone can do that, and I think in academia we have this possibility to offer our students an experience in Europe, in South America, in Asia, in other places. And something maybe quite mundane, but I wrote that down as well, recommendations. I mean, for a student to get a recommendation letter from a prof in the US, in Japan, that adds a lot, I think, to the scope and breadth of a CV. So beyond intellectual and research ideas and stuff, I think there's very concrete, tangible benefits for students to engage in international research.
So clearly a lot of benefits, not without its challenges, but so what would you tell a student, and I suspect there are probably some students here interested in international opportunities, but what would you tell a student in preparing for their first research internship abroad to ensure that they make the most of that experience?
This might sound a bit mundane, but I guess I would say stay open and kind of relax a little. I think it can be, if you're doing your own research, you can feel like the entire world is riding on those outcomes, whereas actually everything, the entire experience is the purpose of being there, not just, the data that you're collecting. And so I think, the more as an international student, you can take that on board and go forward in a kind of curious, open way. And maybe the project isn't going to go at all the way that you originally planned, but you're still going to get something very interesting out of it in the end.
Sure.
Yeah, so I think I will be about the detail level. Fix administrative issues as soon as possible, because going abroad could be a nightmare from an administrative perspective, a lot of paperwork, etc. And the idea is that once you are there, all your time should be used to benefit the maximum from this new experience, and not to be stressed because of some issues regarding your status and everything. So fix that as soon as possible. Once you are there, I would say keep it as simple as possible, meaning working on one project, for instance, maybe not wanting to do everything at the same time, like tourism research, time flies, and if you stay 6 months, for instance, I mean, after what you perceive being a few weeks, you're already by the end of your stay. So because you will discover so many new things, and it will be so exciting, and that, yeah, time will fly very quickly. And I fully agree. I mean, network as much as you can. That's a unique opportunity to create your personal network, professional network, etc. And once you come back, if ever you come back, you may want to stay there too. But once you come back, you're a different person. Of course, you had lived that experience, but also you're a different person, because now you come back with all this new network that you were not aware of before leaving. And I've seen some students changing totally their career in the good meaning of it. I mean, having a boost in their career because they went to some other place and network with other people.
Yeah, maybe to follow up on what Sarah was saying, I think not focusing too much on the project is important, or not having too much pressure. In particular, if you don't work with animals or monkey, or if you don't have anything to acquire there. I mean, in computer science, you know what, you can always finish your project after the internship. Like you don't really need to actually be there to do the project in many cases. So yes, go for dinner with people, go for coffee, go to the department seminar, meet this prof or the student association at the university you're going. Just introduce yourself, hear about their research, and present what you're doing. And I think this experiential part is really the key to a successful international experience.
Great. Thanks, Tristan. So 3 researchers, each from a different faculty here, and doing very different research, but some clear commonalities in the messages coming forward. So I will hand it over, I think, to Doug for the to open the floor for questions and answers. He's here. If not, I can do it.
We have a microphone here if anyone has any questions. Also, anyone on Zoom, if you want to either write your question in the chat, you certainly could turn your camera on and ask us. But we'll start with anyone in the space. Do we have any questions? Anybody? That's okay. We can also have a conversation after the fact, probably, if there are no questions. Oh, there's one, Padri.
So I think some of you may already, I've sent a few emails to a few of you because I am the project officer within Concordia International. And one question I have for all of you as faculty members is, prior to engaging internationally in any which way, whether it's with your students or for the sake of your own research, what would you say is the biggest support that you rely on internally within the university in order for you to be able to step back and say, yes, this is something that I want to do, and this is the plan that I will put to make it happen? So I'm just curious to know, what exactly would you say is like one support that you need to have or that you would like to have internally before you say yes?
I mean, one of them is sitting next to you here. I think that the MyTax people at the university have been an amazing resource for me over the last few years in terms of having students applying to Global Link and figuring out that process, but also I had a student do an international Accelerate, MyTax Accelerate as well. And it wouldn't have been possible without the amazing support that I mean, it's been a number of different people, but Carolyn has been wonderful. And I think that without that kind of support from Concordia International and from MyTax, it wouldn't be possible to do for me. It would be, too hard to navigate those specifics. So, I mean, that's the kind of key for me.
I fully agree. I would have exactly the same answer, MyTax. So, now, really, I don't need to elaborate more because there are so many specificities across the countries that if you are not speaking with someone who knows what it is really about, you may make mistake, and that could be very detrimental for the students. So, internally, I will go to MyTax and the international office.
Yeah, maybe to add to that, I totally agree with what has been said about MyTax and Caroline's tremendous support. Maybe just to add, I forgot to mention that I also think that my research anyway, but I think many people's research critically relies on international students. I mean, I know that Concordia has very much relies on international students, but I think other universities as well. And so without international students, there wouldn't be any research. I mean, my lab would slow down very much by a big factor. And so what I also, need and find useful is to have some guidance and support on, where to find international students, good students, how to attract them, what speaks to them, what are their issues. And it's like things I'm learning along the way as my lab evolves, but I think that's a very key critical component of successful international, collaborations and support.
Did you address your question? Okay.
Hello, my name is Hawa from Concordia International as well. So my question is, before starting to do things internationally as a faculty members, I was curious to know what were your main fear or doubts, and after you have done this experience, like how did you respond to that doubt? Because going abroad or doing something out of our comfort zone, there is always some fears or things that we might expect will go wrong, and at the end it's not that bad, or you have different perspectives. So I was curious to know with you, with your own journey, like how was it? Thank you.
In 2014, I had to have a sabbatical, 6 months, and I decided to go to China. Why? Because at that time I'd never been in China. And I got an invitation from a university there. And I remember I took the plane. I had no idea where I was going to, no idea. I did all these immigration processes before, but I had some vague ideas about what I was expected to do there. But I was totally out of my comfort zone for sure. Okay, but guess what? I liked it a lot because I had some fears, some doubts about my contribution there, about what I will get out of it. But by the end of the day, that was a great stay. And as I said, I had still have colleagues and friends from that period of time, etc. And so, yeah, do not hesitate to go out of your comfort zone, because this is where you will come back much richer than when you were leaving. Yeah.
The one thing that comes to mind is administrative hassle. So for me, this is because processes can be different. I mean, both with students or with jointly funded grants. I mean, it does, I think working internationally does add a level of administrative complexity. So I think, you know, again, what the Concordia International is doing is great in that respect. I think there needs to be some administrative support dedicated to that, to international collaborations. Yeah, that's my main point.
Yeah, I started working in Japan as an undergraduate student and doing field work at the Awajishima Monkey Center. And I benefited so much from learning from Japanese colleagues and from the networks of people that I met over the years and who are still my colleagues there and who I still collaborate with. And so, you know, yeah, there is like, there's more of a administrative burden doing international work, but it's so fulfilling and beneficial that I feel very motivated to like give my students that experience as well if they want to have that experience. And that's my own kind of, I've been working in Japan for almost 25 years now and really value those relationships and those connections. And I'm really excited about the developing connections in Brazil too. And, you know, Global Link has been just, because the other part of this is financial, and it's, you know, it's hard for students to be able to afford to do these things, and Global Link gives a stipend for students to be able to go and also to come here and experience that in their research, which is just a wonderful resource that is available. So,
Doug, if I could add, if I'm allowed, I think Concordia's the professors here come from many, many countries. So I think international collaborations allow them to build on their past, to reconnect with where they come from, as well as maximize on the mobility that graduate students have. And once they become professors, they're able to draw on their networks. So there's also that component that I think is important here.
Another question?
Hello everyone, I am Vaishnavi. So I have just joined Concordia this September, fall 2023, and I have been Global Link MyTax intern in my third year of bachelor's. So I have that experience. So based on that experience, what qualities would you suggest me to improve in myself in order to become like accelerate, to get the MyTax Accelerates a fellowship or something?
it's a little tough to answer without knowing more, but I'm sure you're very qualified. And I think that, Global Link is lovely because it doesn't require matching funds, and some of the other MyTax do. So part of it might be establishing some, starting to think about who you might partner with in terms of finding a good match for a MyTax Accelerate, like an NGO or a business or an organization that might be willing to have you come in and do an internship with them and through them as well. That's my, I guess, starting those putting out those feelers, thinking, starting to network.
And what is the role of a student and the supervisor in getting in the Accelerate scholarship?
Okay, I will say it's a co-work. I mean, you need both to be involved. I mean, the student and the supervisor into building this opportunity. I mean, there is no way you can go abroad without support from a supervisor here, and the supervisor also, I mean, needs you to go there and to start collaboration or to continue collaboration there. So it's really a team that needs to be involved into this.
Just maybe to add to that, to be bold and explicit with your supervisor that that's something you want to do. I mean, sometimes we sort of guess and assume that students would tell us, but it's not always the case. And I've realized that sometimes, students were expecting me to provide opportunities, which technically I could, but it was just not on my radar. So if that's something you want to do, flag it with your supervisor early enough so that, you could jointly prepare a project and proposal.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Well, maybe on that note, unless there's any final words, no? Well, I can just thank you everyone for coming into ForSpace to participate in this. Monica, Sarah, Cédric, Tristan, of course. It was great to have you here for this. And I also must thank at this moment, as a final event of the day, Carolyn, for all of her hard work organizing this. Thank you. And bringing everyone together. We'll be closing up the Zoom and the live stream now, but just like one final thought, we work here at ForSpace every day to try and bring research in, bring projects in, and try and make them more public. But it's wonderful to have a day like this where we can actually think about going out into the world, other experiences, and then hopefully those come back to us at some point too. Okay, so thank you everyone. Everything's online, so you can watch it when you get home, and I appreciate everyone being here. So thank you. Bye.